Hey people, it's Bass the Magician here, and I'm now going to give you a tutorial on how I actually presented the McDonald's aces. I normally don't do tutorials, but this one's all over YouTube, and I wanted people to really appreciate and understand what type of stuff goes into this, into these routines. And I call this enhanced, not because of the trick itself, but the actual counting, the handling, and the performance that I did during the routine. So a little background information on this is I must have watched like 24 different versions of this trick and picked out the specific pieces of it to I did, and then I kind of blended it with my own routine. So this was not something I threw together. I spent about a week, doing this, and then the entire routine was picked through and then cleaned up. So I'm now going to show you the exact way I did this, and hopefully you can use this as an understanding on how to do the baselines on a lot of stuff when you're picking through things and coming up with your own routine. So the one key factor with this is something that I'm going to do during the trick while I'm doing this presentation about the tutorial is I'll be explaining very specific things that you can use during other tricks. So let me get into it here because the trick requires some preparation. Now, first things first, one thing that you can use in every single trick that involves cards using duplicates is most people do not remove the duplicated cards from the deck. I suggest that you do that because I have a duplicated 7 of hearts, 7 of spades, and 4 of spades in this because they're double-sided cards. So I don't even have those in the deck. They're completely removed. So that way I still would have 52 cards here. Now, I also have these aces put into a very specific order. Now, these are the real aces because this trick involves double-sided cards. Now, you can make your own. However, I suggest for flawless up-close scrutiny, you use double-sided cards. Some people can't afford them, but if you go to a magic shop, they can probably give you some. I had to do that when I first started, but I just prefer having double-sided cards outright because it literally survives close-up scrutiny. So the 3 cards that I took out that were duplicated was a 7 of hearts, a 7 of spades, and a 4 of spades. So let me get these out here and I'll show you. So again, I do not even have the real copies in the deck because if somebody wanted to count the deck or anything else, there's 52 cards there, period. So these are the aces. Now, it's important to understand that this trick does require some memorization, some counting techniques and things like that, which I'll be going over in explicit detail. Plus, when I do the performance and as I'm going through it, I'll explain the exact reason why I was doing every single move, pulling the cards out with my hands in a specific order, alternating hands. All of that was actually part of the routine and done on purpose. It wasn't just thrown together. So I'll give you an idea. So what I did first was I took and put the 4 of spades, 7 of spades, and 7 of hearts in this order because when the cards are turned over, you want them to face diamonds, clubs, and hearts. That's key. Now, when you put these into the deck, it doesn't matter what you do. You can shuffle these and do whatever. I had this set up to begin with. The reason why I pulled all the cards out of the deck the way I did is because this trick involves showing the backs of cards. And if you watch the other routine, some people overdo it with the backs of the cards. Some people overdo it with the faces of the cards. They do disappearances, bizarre, things like that. I'm not saying any of those are bad. I just feel it detracts from the trick, and this enhanced version is a lot better, I think, in the way I did it. So continuing on here, let me explain. Some people will have these cards 12th in. I actually have them at the beginning of the deck for a very specific reason. Again, everything in this trick I have done is for a very specific reason. So first off, when I have them in the deck, I have the 3 aces, and I should say the double-sided cards. Now this is important, the order of which these go in. I put the ace of spades in, then the ace of diamonds, then the ace of clubs, and then the ace of hearts. It doesn't really matter where these go. Now, a lot of people will take them out of the box and Hindu shuffle them. There's literally no reason whatsoever to even do that. So when you start the presentation, that's the setup. Also, another key factor you can do here is if you've already been doing tricks with cards in a deck, you can switch this deck out. That's not an issue either. That'll help enhance it because they're already handling the deck too. So it's like, oh yeah, let me show you another trick here. So what I would do is you can show the backs of these, but there's no reason to because you're not focusing on the deck. And then there's no reason to shuffle them. So what I do is I just go through and I say, I'm just going to pull the aces out. So the reason, this is key factor here, number one. When I'm alternating these, I'm starting with my left hand and I'm putting it over here because I'm going to alternate each ace in a hand. One left, one right, one left, one right, and there's a reason for that. So when I turn this over, the other reason I turn this over is to show the backs of these. So when I'm doing this, I put the ace of spades down. I then proceed to continue going through and pulling this one out, which I then transfer to this hand because of what I'm doing. I then will proceed to do the exact same maneuver 2 more times. Again, it shows the backs of these, and this is why you don't need to show the backs of them. You don't need to do the entire deck like that because this is more than enough. Now, what I do is because I did that awkward. What I usually do is, just to make sure people understand that these are the 4 aces, I will turn them over. And while I'm doing that, I will say, in addition to, I need these 4 aces, I'm going to get some cards out of the bottom of the deck. Now, I honestly really didn't count how many cards I had here. And the reason for that is because I need to get 12 here. So it kind of gives a stall tactic between some of the stuff involved in this trick. So when you spread out these cards, it shows everything that you have here. So there's no reason to show the backs of these either. So when you pick them up, I had these spread out for a very specific reason, because these 3 here, if you have a problem getting pinky breaks or anything else in the cards, I actually have these spread out. So when I pick them up, I actually take a break between these and I grab them here. And then I use this to scoop up the other aces. So let me show you this again. When I pull them off the bottom of the deck, it's irrelevant how many I pulled here. That's only relevant to the next part of the trick. So I spread them so they show them. But the main reason for this is to get a break behind these 3 double-sided cards. So when I do this, it's in one fell swoop where I pick this up, and this gives you an excuse. Now, the reason why I had these aces in this specific order, the spade, the diamond, the club, and the heart, is because when you turn these over, it sets it up so it's diamond, clubs, hearts, and spades. That's how that operates. So, as a motion again, I'll do this real quick. In addition to these 4 aces, I'm going to need some cards out of the bottom of the deck. Don't know how many are there, didn't count. I'll spread them out so you can see them. So now when I pick them up and I say, okay, so I'm just going to place these aces face up. So that's the maneuver I did. Now, the other factor with this is, if you pay attention to what I did, I actually had this done out of one hand. So the first thing I did was I spread the ace so they can see the next ace. Whether or not the camera can see it, the audience members can see that. So I purposely show this, but this is the double-sided ace. So what happens here is I put this face down. Now the maneuver I'm doing here covers the next couple of parts. I'm getting the audience used to me turning this over with one hand. So that's the ace of diamonds. Next is the ace of clubs. Next is the ace of hearts, and I let them see these cards. You're purposely letting them see them. Now, the last ace you can't do that with, because that would be giving away this. But what you do is, the reason why you had originally done this move, clubs, hearts, is because of the ace of spades. They'll automatically won't think anything if you just turn it over because you can't see what I just did. Now, the next part is important here, because what I say is, I'm going to need, in addition to these 4 aces, I'm going to need 12 other cards out of the deck. So this is why it doesn't matter whether I have exactly 12 or not, because I can just add to the pile. But the reason I have them spread like this is because when I spread them, I need to get an additional break under the 3 aces here for the count I'm going to do next. So basically, the purpose to spreading these cards is, if you have a problem getting pinky breaks, it automatically allows you to do it because you're purposely, deliberately shuffling and pulling them together so sloppy, nobody's going to take notice to you actually cutting a break there and then holding them. So what I do is I purposely count real slow to make sure, I'm doing this with one hand, because I've done everything with one hand so far. Now I'm changing hands by counting it. So first, when I pulled out the aces, I did it with my left, right, right. Then I spread them. I picked them up and did them with one hand. Now I'm counting it one with this hand. So if you notice, I'm alternating it, keeping a pattern going throughout the entire trick to give it a more natural flow. So I would count 1, and I would keep my hand open so they know I didn't have any other cards here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But the main reason is to make sure that you can get a break under these 3 cards because of the count I'm going to do next. So once you get these 12 cards, you can get rid of the rest of the deck because it doesn't even matter. So I would then pick up these cards first, and I would get a break under here like this. So as you can see, it doesn't matter how messy it is. I have a break under here between these 3 cards. So let me show you that again. So I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now notice I have my hand closed so they can't say I'm hiding any cards. So I would then pick this up, starting with there to get the break under. Now, the misdirection comes with this. I then, once I have the break, I hold it and I say, okay, I'm going to take 3 cards from this pile and place them there. So I have this bent sideways so you can't see the break. Now comes the tricky part with the count. Because if you'll notice when I did this during the trick, I not only showed the 3 cards I put down, but I showed all of the cards I put down. And that's where this next count comes into play. This is a Biddle grip count. But you're stealing, this is why you need the break. Because when you count 1, 2, once you come back under, you're taking those and then you're pulling the top card off again. This move takes some practice. So let me show you that again in slow motion. So again, you have the aces on the bottom of the deck. So you obviously wouldn't show this, but you have all these 12 cards. So then you count. Okay, I'm going to take 3 cards from here and place them on there. So count with me. 1, 2, 3. Now, I have multiple cards in my hand, but the way I did it, because I have my hand held that way, you can't see it. Now, the order in which these cards are done in is a little awkward, because this takes some handling, and this is where the practice comes in. So, starting from where the aces were on the bottom of the deck, say, all right, I'm going to take 3 cards from this hand and place them on top of each ace. Count with me. Now, the reason I do this is because not only to hide this, but it gives an enhanced effect that they can actually see you counting the cards. So that gives you an excuse to turn the cards sideways. So I'm counting 1, 2, and this is where I would steal the cards, 3. Now this is where this gets tricky. I would turn them over, and what you have to do is you have this setup. What you're doing is you're taking the top card and the bottom card and you're pulling the center out as one card. So watch in slow motion. 1, 2. I'm taking this pile of cards that I just pulled out and I'm going to transfer it to the top of the packet, which allows me to now transfer the aces from the middle to the top. So when I turn these over, the 3 aces are now on top, which allow me to place them here. So what happens is the spectator actually thinks you showed them those 3 cards. You did, but you actually hid the aces. So let me show you this again in one smooth, fluid motion. Now keeping in mind, you got to remember that these have to go in a very specific order. They have to be in this order because you're going to eventually, do that. So let me see here. Okay, so I need to pick these up. All right, so I need to take 3 cards from here and place them on top of each ace. So count with me. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take them, spread them apart, turn them over, and I'm going to count. Now, these are the 3 aces. Now, the reason why I'm going to turn the packet over is for a misdirection issue when it comes to this card. I'll explain what I mean. So after you put the 3 down, you've already shown them. You turn this face up and you count and show 3. Now the reason why I count them underneath each other is when you turn them over, they're going to be face up this direction. So you count 3. Then you're letting this sink in. Then I'm going to count these and turn them over again. Now, the audience has already actually seen these 3 cards, but because of the time frame in which I did it in, and they're so concentrated on what's going on, a quick flash of them isn't gonna hurt anybody because they're not gonna actually remember. Some people may catch it, but don't worry about it. I'm gonna show them, and that's how I was able to show all the cards. And then for the last part, I spread and show the backs of them, and then I put them face up on the table. Now the reason why I did this is, again, this is an alternation thing. If you remember, I pulled the ace out with my left hand, pulled another out with my right, and I kept putting them down on the table. Then when I did it, I counted one-handed. Then I counted another, and I just kept doing it. So if you notice, I've been alternating hands, left, right, left, right, left, right. Now, the reason for turning the packets over is because it also intertwines, and it intertwines being able to turn the cards over with being able to alternate your right and left hand. Turn over, turn over, turn over. It's one smooth, fluid motion. So these were turned up, these were turned face down, and then since you're starting face up, you might as well just leave these face up because you've already shown the backs of everything. That's why I don't agree with people doing too many backs and showing too many backs. There's no reason for it because it's plenty of what you're doing. Now, this comes a little bit different because this is a secondary count that I did. You get it in a Biddle grip, and you count out 1, 2, 3, and you get a break under the jack, or whatever card that is, and put it on. Now, and one smooth fluid motion, what I do, after I do the Biddle grip count, 2, 3, I say, okay, I'm going to turn this over like this, and then I quickly do that. Now, this gives the indication that I've just turned the ace over. So this gives no question about it. Now, the other count that I was doing here to keep a consistency was this is the double-sided ace. So when I pull it out, I show the back of this card. I then pull this out from the back of this, and then I pull it out from the back of this side. So I've basically given the illusion that I've shown all the backs. However, there's something I did during this to convince the audience that I actually did that. So if you, again, take it like this, what happens here is when I'm pulling this out and I'm showing the back of that, if you notice, I pulled it from underneath this card here. So I pulled it out, showed it. I then pulled out the jack from underneath in the same fashion. So I pulled it out from underneath the card. Then I continued flowing this, and then I basically made this ace disappear. So that would be the ace of hearts. Now, the second ace is a little different. I scooped them up in the same way I did. I got a break underneath that. And I, in one smooth fluid motion, said I'm going to take it and place it between these cards. So if you do this in the proper way, that's what it looks like. Obviously, I picked 2 cards out at once, so let me show you that again. You know what I'm doing now, but during the presentation, you won't really notice this. So once I do that, I then do an Elmsley count to bring it to the bottom of the pack. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I turn it over and show it's at the bottom, and I can then do the same exact count. 1, pulling it out from underneath the card. 1, 2, 3, and then I made this ace disappear. I'm going to also go over something with these counts and why I'm doing what I'm doing here as well. And then the last one, I got the Biddle grip count again, but what I did was I got the break, and I said, okay, I'm going to do something a little different with this ace. I then turn it over, and I pull the bottom card out. It actually was the bottom card to put it here. Now, the reason why I did this is so when I spread this, I can then turn it over with this and immediately show the backs of both of these in that manner. Now, since you did the diamonds, clubs, and hearts, that's the reason that this should be in this order when you do this. Now, I want to point something out about the counting that I was doing with this. On why I didn't do the normal vanishes with the cards that a lot of magicians do with this. So let me go over this real quick again. So when I'm doing these counts, so let me back up and start over again. All right, so those are there. We'll take it from here. All right, so let me get these out. Okay, so now the reason why I didn't put the ace in the middle, do an Elmsley count, and do all that other stuff is because I figured that was too I don't want to say it's too complex, but what happens here is the vanishes that I'm doing are one smooth fluid thing. It doesn't require a complex count. It's just a simple matter of turning the card over so it's already face up, so you don't have to do much work to do it. So when you're doing this, I kept the consistency on this where I just turned the packet over. That's all I did. So this, when I'm doing this, it's a simple move. So let me get the aces here actually. Let me do it this way. Sorry, that was backwards. So it's a simple move. So I started here with the Biddle grip count. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to turn this over. This is done. This move is done. There's no reason for you to do anything else, because the reason I don't like that Elmsley count in that is because it's too, to me, it's too suspicious. I don't know whether it's just me that knows the trick or whatever it is, but if I do this like this, and I do an Elmsley count to make the ace disappear, I don't like that. It's just weird looking to me. It's like, hey, look at this. 1, 2, hold on a second. It's like, hey, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to do it again. It's like, hey, I don't like it because it's counting too much. A simple turn is all you need. So that's why I do it like this. I basically have the trick do the work for me. I'm just going to turn that over. Now it's done. There's no mystery to this. And again, the same thing. I do the work. I have the trick do the work for me. Turn it over. Hey, look at this. I'm going to move it to the bottom of the deck. So it's face up, but that's the back of it. And then I turn it over. It's great. The trick, that the move is done. The work is done. And it looks more natural, but you're just turning the cards over. And this last one, again, I just did a little awkward turn is what I did. So I did the Biddle grip count. And then, I said, okay, I'm going to take this ace and turn it face up. But when I turn this over, the trick, the move is already done. I just made it look a little more complex by taking the bottom card out. But that's really nothing major. So when I did that, it allows me to do this type of count on the back. So I wanted to do one vanish differently each count, while keeping it a very easy move for anybody to be able to do. On top of that, I wanted to show the backs of them a little differently on the last count, just to give it some, some variety. And that's why when you do this setup like that, you get the aces in that order, because you make them disappear in that order. So the finale on that becomes a lot better. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and as you can see, I put a lot of work in my tutorials, or my tricks in general. I make sure every move is done precise. It has a very specific meaning to it. All my moves are fluid. The consistency remains throughout the trick. And again, you can make double-sided cards, but under close, I'm a perfectionist, so I like to make sure that everything I do can survive under close scrutiny, because there's really nothing left to say on that. Again, as you can see, the routine I came up with, I call it enhanced because of that. It doesn't require any excess showing in the backs of the cards, Pharaoh shuffles, or, whatever you want to do, Hindu shuffles, false cuts, or anything else. You don't need to, I just removed all that stuff and kept it very simple while keeping the effect very powerful and keeping it organized. So, without further ado, that's my version of Mcdonald's Aces. I hope you guys enjoy the routine, and please learn it well, and take care. Spaz.